Former Bucs first-round pick and Super Bowl champ Mike Clayton, and we're going to take a look at who deserves hypothetical season game balls here. MVP of the Buccaneers this season, who's it go to?
Well, we talk a lot about Jameis Winston and everything that he accomplished this year. But for me, as running back Doug Martin, without a doubt, playing from behind a lot. You don't see a lot of running backs who get opportunities in those instances. But Doug Martin showed himself approved this year. He just was a physical back. He made explosive plays for me and was very consistent. Defensively, all right, we always talk about the big fella in Gerald McCoy,
right.
But for me, it's Levante David. He showed up big today, recovering fumbles. He was all over the field in tackles, and he's shown himself to be a household name here in Tampa Bay, and I know that the Tampa Bay fan base is very excited to have him here.
Unfortunately, a fourth year that he's been a Pro Bowl snub. He's led the Bucs in tackles in all those 4 years, but you have to question Quan Alexander, how much he meant to this defense. He leaves on that suspension, and they've lost 4 straight games. How important was he?
He was very important, and I think that that's a testament to how strong this draft class was and how good Jason Light was in going out and plucking young talent to come in and be successful in their rookie years. You know, when you have your guys competing and playing on a competitive level at a young age, you can look forward to years to come of greatness, and I think that I know that the Buccaneers have a lot to look forward to in this young football team.
So are you just as confident when they go into the free agency period as they've been in the draft to be able to add some big key guys for this system? Because I think that's the most important. They've signed some in the past who haven't worked out, but putting key guys into position to make this team a playoff contender.
Well, that's one of the situations where we've come up short and is in free agency. But one thing that changes that completely is when you draft a guy like Jameis Winston and he comes in and performs the way he does. Now veteran players want to come in and play for a guy who's competitive at that level at the quarterback position. So that kind of changes the dynamic in free agency. But, the history shows that you want to build your program through the draft, and Jason Light has also done a tremendous job. We got some great draft picks this year. They'll continue to do that next year.
You have to think they go a little more defensive in the draft this year. They only have drafted one defensive player in the past 2 seasons since Lovie Smith and Jason Light have been here. But what do they need to do to make sure that they're a playoff team next season?
Well, I think that they've already done it. To have your quarterback position come in and play the way that he played. As a veterans, you have to do a reality check. You have to humble yourselves. You see how Mike Evans kind of fell apart, and when your leaders are doing that, that kind of shows where your leadership is. So they're going to have to get back to the fundamentals. As great as Doug Martin played this year, he had some key fumbles. Now, these are things that happen when you're great players make these bad mistakes. It's kind of contagious, and it goes through the system. So those guys are going to have to hone in on their fundamental skills in the offseason. We saw a passionate Jameis Winston in his press conference, ready to get back to work immediately. They're going to have to do that as a collective effort, and I think that those guys will get that done.
When you look at Mike Evans, a lot of people want to point to you when you see Mike Evans.
They say we look alike.
A little bit.
Come
Maybe
on.
that's what it is. But what does he need to do to take his game to the next level?
Well, I think that he's just going to have to get back to the fundamentals. Coming up, he's been a guy who hasn't been as targeted as much as he has in the National Football League. He's relied on his natural ability. I write about a chapter in my book, What Got You There Won't Keep You Here. So what he's going to have to do is for every drop ball, he's got to put forth the extra effort in the offseason. Pay attention to the ways to catch the ball. He's got to learn to high point the football when it's difficult to catch the ball and running. Go up 6'5" frame and catch the ball up high and come back. Let's get a 40, 50-yard gain. He's left so many plays on the field, but at the same time, he's capitalized and had some big games. If a guy like that can keep it together, this football team has a tremendous opportunity to move forward and expedite their process and growing.
Curious one for me. Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Here's a guy with a ton of talent, but yet has had bad drops, has a bad attitude at times.
Yeah.
How does he turn things into where everybody saw the potential? How does he get it going that way?
Well, you don't take anything for granted. When you wear the tag of the NFL, you have to know that you're a role model. I saw a lot of times where Jameis was looking for him and his effort wasn't all the way there. And he's a guy who's a game changer, who has the ability to change the dynamic in your offense and will be a key component. And if a guy like that can't keep it together, those types of attitudes are contagious. So it falls back feedback on the coaching staff. Is this guy good enough to keep here with the attitude, or, is this what we want to portray in our chemistry and how we're developing our team? He definitely has the talent, but this also goes into play of how you draft and the chemistry of guys that you bring in. You definitely want them to have the Jameis Winston type of mentality and grinding, and everybody has to have that in order for this team to move forward and be the championship football team that we talk about.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here with these two, Doug Martin and Vincent Jackson. Are they back next year? Doug is an unrestricted free agent. Vincent Jackson, a nice size contract who may have to take a pay cut to stay. Do you see them wearing the pewter and red next season?
Well, without a doubt, Doug Martin will be one of the most highest paid running backs in the National Football League, and it needs to come from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's established himself as one of the future running backs, and I think that him and Charles Sims adds a tremendous dynamic of what they can do moving forward. Vincent Jackson will obviously be a business decision. These are types of things that are unfortunate. Having a guy of his veteran leadership, we talk about leadership, and these are main components. When I played for the Giants, I didn't play a lot, but I was a leader on that team, and it was a main ingredient in pushing your team forward. Vincent Jackson brings that leadership capability, and he's a big play wide receiver. So if you can keep him here with the business of football, he would be a tremendous asset. Unfortunately, you don't know how those things are going to pan out, and if we lose them, we are going to lose a great player.
So the one thing that you point to for next season in order for this team to be a playoff team is what?
Eliminate the mistakes. It starts in the offseason. The reps that you put in now are going to come second nature in December next year. These are the type of things that we saw come up short when you need to win 1 or 2 games just to get in the playoffs and show yourselves approved. I was a part of a New York Giants football team who had to get it the hard way, go on the road and win and win and win, and came up victorious. It happens in the offseason. Jameis Winston showed his passion, but what you do in the offseason, getting back to the fundamentals, are going to be a key ingredient in how you perform in December. That's going to be the main component.
He's always a top performer. Michael Clayton.